All right, everyone, we're going to jump right back into the next shape, which is rectangle. Again, I cannot emphasize enough, this rectangle already has 5 properties and the 2 of a quadrilateral, so it already has opposite sides are congruent, opposite angles are congruent, diagonals bisect each other, and we have opposite sides are equal. What makes a rectangle unique? So if you were to describe just a rectangle, we need to know that all it has 4. The easiest way to say it is that it has 4 right angles. Okay, so where are these 4 right angles? That's here, here, and here. We obviously know that all 4 sides are not the same. That's what makes it different than a rhombus. In a rhombus, all 4 sides are congruent. In a rectangle, they're not. I already know opposite sides are congruent, though, because it's a parallelogram. So what's unique is that inside there's 4 right angles. And there's actually only one other unique property to a rectangle. And if you remember in a parallelogram, we traced these diagonals and said to look and say, they don't really look the same. In a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent. And it's kind of like because it's sitting straight up, standing straight up, where a parallelogram's like pushed. So let's look what happens if I mark these congruent, right? Now all 4 of these little pieces are congruent. What did I just create here? A triangle. What kind of triangle? Isosceles. Now I made an isosceles triangle here, and another one here, and another one here. Now obviously this isosceles triangle is the same as this one, and this one's the same as this one. But that's going to be a huge factor when we need to find some angle measures. So let's go down. Okay, are rectangles parallelograms? If I go back to the flow chart, is a rectangle a parallelogram? Always. So always, always, always. Rectangles parallelograms, that is true, always. Okay. Are rhombuses, all rhombuses are rectangles. And here's where we need to be careful. Absolutely false. Okay, rhombuses are their own shapes, rectangles are their own shapes. But if I say rhombuses are blank rectangles and it's always, sometimes, never, it is going to be sometimes, and that's when they're a square. Okay, let's look at this one. Go ahead and see if you can answer. Are the opposite sides parallel? Yes, diagonals bisect, and now the diagonals are congruent and opposite angles. So in the rectangle, all of this is true. Which one would be specific to a rectangle? That one. So it depends on how I word this multiple choice. If I said which one's specific to a rectangle, then it would be C, but properties of all of them. All right, now let's look at our math problem. So go ahead, pause this video, honestly, and see how much you could get without me first. Okay, first thing I'm going to notice, they did give me a diagonal length. The WY is 33, so you want to keep that in mind. So when I look here, I ask for XO, and XO is half of the diagonal. Well, the diagonal is the same on both of them. So half of the diagonal is 16.5. So now I know I have that one. Okay. And then I'm going to take that away for a second. I know I need angle measures, which means since I know this is 56, one thing you definitely know is lines are parallel, so alternate interior, it definitely tells me that's 56. So don't forget, alternate interior aren't going anywhere. What I need you to recall is this: the diagonals are congruent, which means this piece and this piece are the same, which means this is an isosceles triangle. So if that's 56, this is 56. Alternate interior tells me this is 56. What else I know in a rectangle is every corner's 90. So if the corner's 90, 90 minus 56 tells me this is 34, and alternate interior tells me that's 34. Without knowing about isosceles triangles, we wouldn't know that. But now that we know that, we put that there. And then, of course, I can find the center because 180 minus 68 would be 112. And if that's 112, this is 68. So now I can find anything. So X, W, O is 34. And ZOY is 112. Now let's look at what we got here. I want WZ, which is here, if I do it in a different color. I have nothing on the outside. What I do know is I have the length of the diagonal. So I know that this is 33. Well, look what else. I know this makes what type of triangle. So now if I pull this out, and I know this is 33, and this is a right triangle, and I know down here is 56, or up here is 34. It doesn't matter which one, but I don't need both. And now I want to find X here. Now, I could have found WX2. It doesn't matter. So now this one, again, since I used 56, it's going to be cosine of 56 is X over 33 because it's adjacent over hypotenuse. And so now this one I'm going to cross multiply. Cosine 56 times 33. And that answers 18.4. So we see a trend here, obviously, from the last video that you have, your shapes, and pretty easy to get the 3 shapes. And the last one's asking me to require trig. So just check that out. All right. And that's it for rectangle. Again, please don't be forgetting to type in your flowchart. For example, we already know properties of a rectangle for right angles, and we know that it has diagonals are congruent. So you want to be filling this in as you go, are congruent. You already know in the rhombus that the all sides are congruent. Diagonals are perpendicular, and that the opposite angles bisect each other.